You're listening to Feast Podcast.
Good day, everyone. My name is Leanne Simone Ariscayo, the Vice President of Peace Organization, and I'm with
Hi, I'm Charles Daniel Bautista, the Secretary of Fees Organization, and we welcome you to the second episode of Fees Podcast. Welcome.
to Feast Podcast. Last November 7, the Feast Organization launched its first ever episode of Feast Talks. There, Shanmei and Morl talked about the life and experiences of our fellow Red Hawks. For some time, it became the talk of the town.
That's right. And the experiences that our fellow students shared were meaningful and relevant to the entire institute. Indeed, college life was a lot harder than I expected. Yet it's also fun because of the environment and the people that surrounds me. Through this, it makes studying in your Espililia a lot fun.
I could not agree more, Charles. But anyway, November has been a busy month for all of us. Regardless of what year you are in or how many units you are taking this semester, it's evident on the campus how everyone is occupied with work. At the same time, we celebrate the National Reading Month every November. So can you imagine, Charles, how hectic the schedule might be for our fellow English majors? Regardless, the fierce organization pushed through with the activities we prepared for them.
The future educators are so lit and cooperative. Festivities have been the highlight of this month for our English majors to be exact. The different twist of events, the launching of the new events that have been introduced by Feast, such as the Feast Talks, the Meme Stars, the Major Feud. It made the National Reading Month fun and exciting for every student of the college. What can you say about the celebration, Miss Leanne?
Where do I start? I'd say that it's a very life altering experience. Seeing how invested my fellow English majors are on joining our events, and especially with the theme, which is revisiting the past, exploring the present, and anticipating the future through reading and literature, proves how literature is timeless. And literature, through whatever form, will forever remain relevant to whoever consumes it. So, Charles, what would you say was your favorite event during our English month?
Actually, it's a really hard question to answer since every event has its own edge. Each event was very unique, but I would have to say that one of my favorite event was the storytelling competition. Hearing different voices give life to the story of King Midas and the Golden Touch was really pleasing to hear. They have different styles in delivering the story to the audience, and also the eye-catching visuals and editing of their videos, which added a lot of a wow factor to the overall presentation. So, bravo, English majors!
Before we introduce our guest speaker for today, I want to ask you, Charles, a rather personal question. Why did you choose English as your major?
Actually, I wasn't really planning on teaching in the future, especially in English. Being an English major is mainly not my personal choice, but a choice made by others. It was like influenced by my family, my friends, my classmates, and also my teachers who actually believed that I'm really proficient in English. They saw my essays, my technical papers, all my writings, and also they saw me how I express myself in full English. But yeah, they believe that I'm suited as an English major student. Well, I don't really see myself teaching English in the future, but I took this as a challenge because we'll never know. There might be a change of heart that may happen that would make me embrace the profession of English teaching. So, how about you, Lian? Why did you choose to be an English major?
That's a really nice answer, Charles. And I, for one, think that you are fit to be an English teacher someday. I would say that our reasons are somehow alike. Ever since I was in elementary, my teachers would always label me as the student who likes the English subject. And it was only until I was in senior high school that I opened myself into liking other subjects, mainly social sciences. So during my application season for college, I was contemplating on what major to choose. Is it the newly found passion or this comfort subject? And quite obviously, I chose English, which is my comfort subject, and so far I'm loving it. And my subjects, I really love them. And thinking now, I think I made the right decision. So that's enough chit chat for the both of us. We have come to the most awaited part of the episode, Red Hawks. future teachers, and my fellow English majors, let us introduce to you our first guest.
Our first guest for our Feast Talks, he is an alumnus of the University of Rizal System Pililla campus. Like us, he took Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English. He is now an English teacher at Marciana P. Catolos National High School in Tanay Rizal. He is none other than Mr. Arvin Benamije. How's life
Yay!
lately, Mr. Benamije?
Hello,
And on
everyone.
behalf of the Feast organization, we would like to thank you for accepting our invitation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charles and Leanne, for having this kind of feast podcast. You know what? When Leanne messaged me 2 weeks ago, I was actually watching the pilot episode of the feast podcast, and I can't help myself to be amazed on the mission, on the objectives of this program now. So that's why, without hesitation, without second thought, I said yes to Leanne. And yeah, it's really such an honor, and I am immensely grateful today to be with you in this Feast podcast.
Thank you so much, sir. We know that you know well how much we idolize you as a teacher. Um, Sir, knowing that you were once in our shoes and you experienced the same struggles of an English major, you might possibly know or you might give us tips later on. Charles and I prepared a few questions that we would like to ask you and if we would like to discuss with you, if that's okay with you.
Yes, sure, let's get it on.
So, sir,
Let's
for the
go.
first question, as people perceive it to be, English is like the hardest subject for some. They could be struggling with grammar, constructing sentences, misspelled words, and confusing phrases. With that, amongst all the difficulties that I've mentioned, what made you choose the field of English teaching?
That's an interesting question, Charles. You know what? Just to give you a context or a brief background, I have this childhood experience. Well, actually, I grew up here in a small barrio, in a small village here in Pililla, Rizal. And that time, we don't have electricity nor the internet connection. So I was just, or I mean, I don't have that luxury of resources to learn the English language. So I was just a typical pupil learning how to read ABC and counting one, two, three. And as a kid, I view English as a language of the rich people, the language of the intelligent people. And I still remember I was in fourth grade that time, wherein someone told me that you are an idiot. You are an idiot. So at first, I thought that was a compliment. So out of curiosity, I checked on the dictionary what that word means. As I remember, we have that dilapidated dictionary at home. And then when I checked, to my surprise, it has a negative meaning. So from then on, honestly, I was really hurt and I was offended by that word. So from then on, I even questioned myself if I am really that kind of person. So from then on, I started to engage myself, knowing different unfamiliar terms, different unfamiliar words, especially whenever I'm going to encounter these words. So looking at that experience, it all started with questioning myself, questioning my capabilities, questioning my skills, and let's say I want to prove to that person that I am not that an idiot that he is saying to me. So fast forward, you know what? It was the same question that Dean Folgado asked me during the interview when I was applying for BSE program. So she asked me, why did you choose BSE English? And to be completely honest with you guys, English was not my favorite subject when I was in elementary and even in high school. And I'm one of those students who struggled so much in learning the English language because, as I said, I don't have that enough resources and exposure to the materials. But one thing that is remarkable that I told to the Dean Folgado was, Dean, I want to transform this weakness into strength. And um, by transforming this weakness into strength, I will be able to help other people who's already struggling with learning the English language because firsthand, I have the experience to how I struggle on the process. So right now, I'm using that perspective and teaching my students on how they will be able to learn the language easily and at the same time how they're going to enjoy the process. Because you know what, um, it's really a completely a different story. Many people are, let's say, there are English major wherein they took it because that's their niche, that's their strength, and that's their capability. It's a complete side story of mine, no? So maybe other English major would have that. But one thing that I realized with that is you do need the motivation, the desire to go further, even though other people are saying, oh, you are this kind of person. You are not capable of learning the language. But if you have the knowledge, if you have the desire to learn the English language, definitely you'll achieve whatever you wanted to achieve. So I guess that's, I mean, those are my motivations, starting to love the English language.
In college, I learned it has been established to us by our professors that English is a learnable skill, and today you proved us that that is true. So, for the next question, sir, looking back at your college years, what do you think helped you improve your macro skills? Did you join organizations, spend the whole time in the library, or were you a lax student yourself? Kindly give us a walkthrough on how you defied those challenges.
How do I improve my macro skills? You know what? English is such a complex subject, not only with ideas or concepts, but with the macro skills. And I believe each macro skill entails independence and interconnections with one another. I say independence in a way that each skill requires necessary training and exposure. Interconnections because they need each other to be an efficient and effective language learner. And speaking of challenges, I must say that being a college student is full of challenges, right? Do you agree? Okay. I could say that first, from the environment, environment is important in defying these challenges. And when I say environment, it is the people who are with you learning the language. How do you build an environment who are going to give constructive criticism? How are you going to foster rapport and your sincere way of correcting mistakes to your classmates and with your friends? And when I say environment, when I enter in URS Galilea, we were exposed to speaking the language from reporting down to recitation. And I feel like those are the things that help me to develop my English language. And as a first year student, I had the transition of course, transitioning from the high school to the college level. And there are certain insecurities that I have when I was a student back then, because as I said, I was a struggling learner that time. And I have those classmates who are really fluent. So I really admire them. And I told myself that one day I will be like them. And speaking of this environment as well, I joined organizations. We have organizations such as SEPs that time. We don't have fees actually before. I'm just happy that we have the fees right now in the College of Education. But before, it's a combination. SEPs is a combination of those students coming from the College of Social Sciences and from the College of Education. And I also joined DAMPOL. That's the official publication of our university. So I'm the photojournalist back those times. Okay. So aside from the environment, of course, we have the challenges, and challenges have always linked to pressures, no? Pressures from submitting your requirements on time, to do reporting, and also explaining in yourself in English, and also pressure in passing the qualifying exam. You know what? When I was first year and I was about to take the qualifying exam, that was the deciding point if I am really qualified to be an English major. So that's the time that I will prove to myself, not only with other people, that I'm capable of speaking the language or learning the language, but at the same time, I am capable of teaching the language. And I was just so happy that I was able to pass the qualifying exam. And yeah, aside from that, this was a common feedback we are getting from our fellow students, no, they say that English majors were arrogant and boastful because we were exposed into speaking the language, the English language. And these are pressures, you know, these are pressures that we have to defy these challenges of what other people are saying. And with those pressures, I still remember Rancho and the movie PE just saying that this is college, not a pressure cooker. And one thing that I realized is you really have to enjoy the process of learning the language. And also in learning the language, in defying these challenges, you need to know also your abilities. Dr. Gagalang would always say to us, if you want to learn English easily, you speak in English, you listen English stories, and you watch, or I mean, you listen music in English, you watch English movies, you write in English, you read in English, you read English books, and think in English, so that you will be able to learn and to use the language efficiently. So we have the environment, the pressures, the your abilities, and lastly we have the L. I guess in defying those challenges, you need to love the learning process. And our professors never fail of telling us to love the learning process, even though they are going to give voluminous number or amount of activities which sometimes bombarded you to do those things. But you know what? On the other hand, I can say that these pressures that our professors are giving to us are helping us in the same way, because in that way we're building ourselves, we're transforming ourselves. And yeah, I guess if I'm going to have it as an acronym, as an English major, in order for you to defy challenges, you need to be EPAL. So we have environment, a pressure, your abilities, and the love for the English language. And yeah, it might be, it has a negative meaning for us Filipinos, EPAL, but it takes courage, it takes bravery to learn the language.
So those challenges that are namely to be EPAL are also the challenges that I'm currently facing as a transitioning freshman student of your Lilia. At first, when I entered the classroom, I was already asked to introduce myself in full English, especially on those English that uses English as its medium. And I was really shocked that I'm not even allowed to say an itsy bitsy tiny Filipino word because we were practicing on how to be fluent or proficient in speaking English. And also for some of my classmates that I've noticed, some of them also struggle with speaking in English. They say that they are good in writing. Some of them are good in speaking, but not in writing. So, according to this kind of experience, for someone who's an English major, a good writer but not a good speaker, what practice could be effective to gain confidence and also to somehow be proficient when it comes to speaking in English?
You know what, Charles? I like what you said, that there are students who are really good in writing, but when in terms of public speaking, they struggle so much. And having that kind of student in the public school setting, I am really into this kind of students now. And this is also a common question that I am receiving from these students. And I guess this is really such a beautiful platform to discuss this on how we could be able to gain confidence in speaking. But before I answer that, I believe I am not in any way in the authority to give the best advice in gaining confidence in public speaking, because I feel like gaining confidence is experiencing public speaking firsthand. Okay, as someone who experienced getting out of my safe zones, of my comfort zones, I can say that it takes years of practice and training to be fully equipped with the confidence that you wanted to gain, and experience practicing with the people around you, with the community, with your teachers, with your educators, would somehow be the best, the simplest and best way for you to gain confidence, because at the end of the day, it's a matter of how you're going to use the language. Because even now, you know what, whenever there is speaking engagement, I would normally have this nervousness on my side, on my part as a speaker. And I guess that's normal. What's important is how we're going to deal with the pressures or with this kind of challenges that we are feeling. And so I guess in order for you to develop that confidence in public speaking, I feel like you need to be aware of yourself. You need to accept your flaws and your weaknesses, because the moment that you will accept your flaws and weaknesses, that's the time that you're going to embrace the real you. And at the same time, you gather feedbacks to other from other people. It's important to gain feedbacks, to collect constructive criticisms from people. But always remember that there are many opinions that people will throw to us. It will be a competition of opinions. But as an individual, you have to weigh which opinions really matter and which opinion which you should discard. Because not all opinions are valid. And opinions could either be positive and negative. If that opinion would somehow distract you, would somehow um live you to your purpose, then you should discard that opinion. And then I guess I allow me to have a short uh, flashback. I still remember the first time I had the huge opportunity to host the 2012 Mr. and Miss URS. So that time, our beloved URS Palilia was the host campus during the foundation celebration. And I knew then that I am about to face different people considering it was a university wide. So I did my assignments. I practiced a lot. I did audio recording for me to listen to my voice, my articulation, my pronunciation, my diction, my gesture, and I also asked feedbacks from my friends and professors. And I guess those are part of the learning process. If you wanted to speak in front of the camera, or I mean, if you want to speak in front of the mirror, you could do it because it's a way of seeing yourself, seeing yourself in front of a large audience. And also, lastly, I can say that gaining confidence and building and boosting your self-esteem takes an everyday process of embracing yourself.
That's really substantial, sir. So, awareness of oneself and your environment and a lot of practice is the key to improvement. So, sir, what advice can you give to those senior high school students who are planning to major in English?
The best advice or advice I could give to English majors, are you sure with what you're going to take? Are you 100% decided? If you will be able to answer these questions, then basically you have the guts to be an English major. But if you cannot answer these questions, it's normal. It's okay because I was in your shoes during those times. I am undecided if I'm going to take my fear, if I'm going to transform my strengths. If I'm going to transform my weakness into strength, and will that be feasible? So I'm asking those questions. But maybe it's important that you have the desire to learn, and it's your attitude towards learning the language and taking the subject. So either you like or you hate English, what's important is how you utilize the English language as a tool to connect to different people, to understand them. In any way, we don't have any right or authority to degrade or embarrass other people, just what I experience, because they are not capable of speaking the language. Um, Speaking the language, as I said earlier, English, my perspective about the English language is the language of the rich people, the language of the intelligent people. But most importantly, what I realized, it is a language to connect people, a language that will establish meaningful conversations to other individuals, and how are we going to transform at the same time our students, especially I am an educator right now. And maybe having said, begin with an end in mind. So make a clear purpose. That time, my purpose was I wanted to transform my weakness into strength. So have that clear purpose why you are going to take English major. And it's important to have that clear purpose because when you feel that you are about to surrender, when you feel that you are about to um when you feel you are about to not continue, your purpose will dictate you that this is your purpose and you have to push through with your purpose. And also you have to challenge yourself. You have to step out of your comfort zone in order for you to defy these challenges. And you know what? I can't help myself to be thankful for of trusting myself, because I feel like if I don't trust myself in the very beginning and I will just preoccupy myself with the saying that I am an idiot and I'm not capable of learning the language, then basically I cannot be like this. I cannot be that teacher who's going to inspire students to learn the language, who's going to impart knowledge to students in learning the basic language skills. And also, for me, it's really important to read. Engage yourself in the reading process. We all know that it's an input skills, and once you read, you know a lot of things. You have different things to share because in speaking it's an output skill, right? And in writing it's also an output skill. So if you don't have that necessary input skills, well, basically you cannot share what you don't have, as they say. And never stop learning, because life has a lot of learning that that could give us. And maybe sometimes the Lord is placing us in an inconvenient situation, but that uncomfortable and inconvenient situation would give us greatest lessons and would see us, or would give us what our real purpose, what our real passion in this world. And yeah, you just have to trust yourself even though others are doubting you.
English is the lingua franca of the world, and to be connected with the world, you have to strive to learn the language. Charles?
So same as what Mr. Benami has said. Actually, I wasn't really planning on majoring in English, and I chose during my SHS times, during the application era. I was really struggling on whether to pick Bachelor of Elementary Education, Bachelor of Secondary Education major in Social Science, and the English. But then there I figure out what my strength and what my weaknesses are. First, elementary education, I don't have enough patience. I'm not really jolly when it comes to teaching. My forte is more like teaching those students who are more engaged, who are more matured, and also the major in social studies. I'm not really inclined with the history or economics. And then I just realized that I have a love for English. So why not choose to major in English? Why not choose to do something that I unconsciously loved, do something that I am unconsciously proficient to. So with that, we have one more question prepared just for you, sir. So
Sure.
bring it on, Miss Leanne.
Sir, do you think the perfect English teacher exists?
I believe that being a perfect English teacher doesn't exist. I believe there is no perfection because in teaching, I know that I commit some flaws and some mistakes sometimes. But what's important is your determination, your courage to be a perfect embodiment. I mean, perfection is an idea. We want it to be perfect most of the time, but we cannot be perfect. It's the real scenario of our life. Okay, and I guess the only perfect in this world is God, because He knows everything. And becoming, or as a perfect English teacher, I cannot recognize myself as a perfect English teacher, but I am a teacher who's dedicated, who's passionate, and determined to help my learners to love the English language.
And that's a great way to conclude our talk for today. This has been such a meaningful talk, and I wish that our dear listeners learned as much as me and Miss Simon did. As much as we want to prolong this episode, sadly, it has come to an end.
But before we end this episode, before we formally say goodbye to everybody, let us take this time to let Sir Arvin promote his YouTube channel.
Well, first of all, before I promote my YouTube channel, I would like to thank the people behind this Feast podcast, the officers, Charles, Leanne, and to the rest of the officers. Please send my regards, my congratulations, and also to your advisor, Dean Folgado, for coming up with this kind of platform. You know what? Um, I really accepted the invitation because I know that this is a huge platform to inspire future educators and future language teachers. No, so kudos to the people behind this program, and I'm expecting for a more episode. I'm actually tuning into your episode, so please keep on slaying the episodes in the following days and weeks. And at the same time, yeah, allow me to promote my YouTube channel. So that's Arvin Javier Benamije, wherein I produce educational contents on English and some stuffs about the deaf ed application, or it could be some deaf ed things. Okay, and I have that hashtag Vinsights every time I produce some video. Well, basically, hashtag Vinsights is coined from my name, hashtag Vin from my name, Arvin, and Sites, so Vinsights. All right, so yeah, please hit the subscribe button and of course tap the bell so that you'll be updated once I produce another content. And maybe if you are going to request some contents, you could message me or you could comment on the videos. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Sir Arvin. What an episode. Would you agree, Charles?
Yes, it was a very meaningful and very substantial episode wherein every English students would be able to get something, to learn something from what our speaker have said this morning.
This has been a Vinsightful episode. Thank you so much for sticking with us, English majors. Thank you, Sir Arvin, again for accepting our invite. Thank you, Miss Christine Johnson Austria, for working with us today. This has been Leanne Simone Ariscayo, the Vice President of Peace Organization.
And I'm Charles Daniel Bautista, the Secretary of Fees, and we'll see you on our next episode.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.